Wednesday, June 5th, day number 3 of week 10, the last week of the regular season before we get to CWL Anaheim, saw our first half of the day with our frontrunners going up against teams they should beat, but did they? And the back half of the day, well, there were teams that all needed wins, so who would walk away between the Heretics versus Splyce and Enigma 6 versus Envy? That and more right now. What's up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back. Good to see you guys. IHOLDSHIFT with you again. Yes, it is day 3, done and dusted, as all of our EU casters like to say. Probably more than what is healthy, but we'll just dig on into it as we've got a lot to talk about and lots of implications going forward. As we get through day number 4, we'll not only have our finalized day of what happens in Division B, but also we'll have all of our pools to announce going into Anaheim. This is going to be very exciting, the biggest event of the year, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and tune things down over to what happened today with Elevate taking on against 100 Thieves. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, really, to be honest, 100 Thieves, they need to be able to bounce back as they had a little bit of a rough start against the set versus Enigma 6. They were able to find themselves that win in 5 maps, but then, of course, coming off the loss for eUnited, a little bit of insecurity as far as how good is 100 Thieves. Are they still the front runner in the division? Should they still be a major consideration for Anaheim? They needed to handle Elevate quickly because Elevate is a team that is absolutely on the surge, having just narrowly lost to eUnited and Heretics in their previous 2 games after having a 3-2 win versus Enigma 6. Well, this one would start off, well, let's be honest with you, not super very well for Elevate. They did not pick the best of map pools. It favored 100 Thieves super hard. Not 100% sure what Elevate was doing in these vetoes, but we get a lot of very early back and forth on Seaside for the hard point until 100 Thieves would step up and start to really run away with it, able to piece together a couple of clutch hills on the second rotation. Specifically, Octane had this insane moment with a solo Tempest in barrels. You see his front 2 teammates run in before him, both die, and he says Tempest time and cooks everybody in the barrels. 100 Thieves would walk away 250 to 145 with the dominating win on the hard point versus Elevate to start things off. My biggest concern for this set was Elevate possibly being able to take a set, or probably take a map in the Search and Destroy versus 100 Thieves. But to be honest, Search and Destroy was not much of a contest. 100 Thieves really starting to look very comfortable on Search for the first time that we've seen them in some time, as it would be a 6-1 win there. And then again, Octane, Priesta as well, just ripping apart Elevate all day today. Octane was able to find full streaks in the first round of the Control played, on Frequency. And from there on out, it was just all 100 Thieves, a 3-0 on the Control, a 3-0 in the set. Wash it away. Forget about that one if you're Elevate. It's a tough opponent, but for 100 Thieves, the first comfortable win we've seen them in quite some time, let alone mention that this was one of the more convincing Search and Destroy wins that they've had since recent memory would serve me right. The only other one would be the one versus Enigma 6 where they found the 6-2 win also on Payload, which is where this one was played. But this team has not had a comfortable win in Search and Destroy previous to these last 2 days, dating all the way back to their set versus Optic just before London. Literally the match before London. It was a 6-2. So this is the team that really needed some help in the Search and Destroy department, and well, they found some success here today. Let's move on forward, though, into the Denial and eUnited set. Again, this is another one that Denial, you wanted to be able to put this one in a close fashion. And I had this one going a little bit back and forth. I had this one, I believe, 3-1 in my predictions, if I remember correctly. eUnited need to put this one away quick if they want to continue to be that top team. They have obviously gotten through 100 Thieves. Now you just have to get through the rest of your week, and you close out at a perfect 7-0 like Optic did. And then it puts me in a hard spot of rating who's going to be the best team going into Anaheim. First hard punt would be on Arsenal, and let's be honest, it just wasn't close at all. It would be eUnited all from the takeoff, just all the way through it. Just again, no contest really whatsoever. 250 to 128. Then we go to the Search and Destroy. Now, for me, Denial, I thought their best chance of getting a map win would be on either the hard point or the Control, as United has just been okay at both of those, but they've been the Search and Destroy monsters. But they go to Arsenal, which, yes, you take a look at United's track record, it's been one of their better maps. Actually, it's been their best map. They were 6-1 coming into this matchup. Denial on this current roster, though, has been a perfect 3-0. So this must have been their pick, you would have to figure. And, well, honestly, Denial was able to eke out a couple of late round wins. where it was 2v1s, 2v3s, and they just able to finalize and close out the rounds. eUnited, from the differential that they found in the mid game, were not able to quite bounce back. And how about this? The Nile take the Search and Destroy 6-4, and you start to say, huh, maybe this set could go to 5. Over to Arsenal, again staying on it, we would go into the Control. And well, eUnited, they would absolutely roll Arsenal Control, concluding it with a perfect round. Essentially, all they had to do was win 2 team fights. They captured B, moved right on over, captured A. This was late, and it turned into a 3-1 on the Control, but still a perfect round from eUnited on Control. That's nuts. But again, that's what happens when you win 2 team fights cleanly off the rip, and then you pop Specialists to delay. Brilliant stuff from eUnited. This is one of the biggest issues they've had coming through the Pro League, as their Control has just been okay. They now total a 16-15 Control win rate, so getting above that 500 win rate is excellent for them. And then to go to the hard point, from there you just kind of figured that the tides had changed. They did. Easy peasy, no problem for eUnited, 250 to 141. Easy clap in the chat. And then we go over to Splyce taking on Heretics. And my biggest question is, would Nolson have the similar performance than he had in the first time that we saw him yesterday on Tuesday? The answer would be 100% yes, as they would start things off on Frequency Hardpoint, a map that Heretics has decidedly been relatively good at. And Splyce, of course, going through swaps. We're not sure what to expect, but when they played it in day 2, it looked pretty solid. They would look solid here again, as Nolson would have another great performance. That matched up with Temp. Heretics just not quite able to keep up, 250 to 177. To the Frequency Search and Destroy. Temp still hot with the Maddox, a 7-1 start after 3 rounds. Heretics would come back a touch to piece together a couple of mid-rounds, but it just was not enough, as it would be Splyce at a 6-4 scoreline. Then to the Control. This is where Splyce and their question marks, I think, really have to kind of hit the fan. They have been good here, but with the swap, would they continue to see that success with Nolson involved? The answer would probably be a little bit more decided than you would think, because Heretics have not lost a Control to Splyce yet. However, Heretics have also not won a single Control map all split. That would change here. Again, a pretty convincing total for Heretics, a 3-1 on the Control, which was a good start for them to get back in. But was it too little, too late? The answer would be yes. Arsenal hardpoint, Splyce, pedal meet metal. Nolson goes nearly double positive. Jerd goes double positive. Temp goes double positive. Heretics did what they could, but when you're going up against that much of an outgunmanship fight, you're just not going to end up on top. 250, 148. Splyce take the set 3-1. Finishing off the day, Enigma 6 and Envy. This is going to be an interesting one, because Enigma 6 desperately need to win, but hey, so do Envy, because they have been in a slump. This has not been a great split at all for them, as they've only won a single match that was up against the Heretics in their second match of week 9, which is not what you want to see. Here against Enigma 6, again, we've talked a lot about this team. If you're just joining us for the first time, I'm a big proponent of this Enigma 6 team. They need to clean up a couple of things, and this 2 weeks could have gone very differently from them. Take an eye on this team going into Anaheim, because they could be very good. I personally had Enigma 6 winning this one, and we would start things off on Frequency Hardpoint. Both teams would come out hot. A lot of really hot and cold moments. Huke, though, was put at an absolute minimal effect, only going 16-33, or pardon me, 16-23, I beg your pardon, while the score was just under 200 apiece, tied about 190 each between two of them. Meanwhile, Kismet was up to 36-17 with full streaks at that point. He would finish the map with 41 eliminations, and by the end, almost all of Enigma 6 was positive. Only a few on Envy even matched to even by the end of the set, but it all still came down to one last hard point. Take a look.
All tied up. Envy with the lead. It all comes down to this next hard point, and Huke, he's in on it on alone. He's in on it for now, and it's going to be the kills, the trades coming through. 5 points for the win for Envy. The contest, if you win this gunfight, you may as well win the map. Jetly finds 2. We're about to see the lead change hands again. Envy, there's a slam ready. Jetly finds a 3, and that's it. Let's go, baby.
So with Enigma 6 finding themselves a clutch first win, on the hard point, we'd go to Hacienda, Search and Destroy, and goodness, blink and you would have missed this one. Envy is just looking absolutely lost on Search and Destroy, considering that there have been a team full of absolute Search and Destroy all-stars, But how about this statistics, as Enigma 6 would be able to win this one convincingly, 6-1 on the Hacienda. But here's the staggering stat line for you. This is the first time Enigma 6 has been up 2-0 since they went 3-0 versus Reciprocity in Fort Worth pools. That's how long it's been since Enigma 6 has been in the lead in a set from the get-go. There have been a couple of sets where they've been up 2-1, but it's after they've lost the first map. They have never been up 2-0 since that time against Reciprocity. Would they be able to mimic it with another 3-0 here? Frequency control is where we'd head to, and honestly, it was a very back and forth affair, but Enigma 6 just too strong on the offense, would be able to capitalize a couple of clutch spawn trap moments, and they'd find themselves a 3-2 win in the control, winning the set 3-0. Envy, what is going wrong? Taking a look at the games tomorrow, Enigma 6, another big matchup for them versus Denial. This one is actually a pretty big one in the standings, as it will flip-flop who's in 6th and who's in 7th or 8th. And then we go to Elevate versus Envy, another good matchup, because again, a lot riding on these bottom 4 teams to play up against each other. And then we'll finish the day with our top 4 teams in the Division B, eUnited going up against Heretics, and 100 Thieves going up against Splyce. And the division standings have separated quite a bit between the top 4 and the bottom 4. Let's go ahead and get into each of these matches, though, for you, starting with Enigma 6 and Denial. My biggest thoughts on this is the simple fact that Enigma 6 has looked good everywhere. Even though there are losses and their stats might not show it, they've looked good across every single game mode, with a couple of exceptions. There have been a couple of bad hardpoint losses this 2 weeks, but more importantly, there have been a couple of bad search and destroy losses in these 2 weeks. They've been doing relatively well in the respawn as a whole. And after what we saw today, the 6-1, and they had a 6-3, remember, against 100 Thieves the other day. This is a team that I'm very, very surprised is not winning these games. Again, it just comes down to the clutch factor. Can they close out sets? The answer so far has been definitively no. For Denial, on the other hand, this was not a good showing for them today against eUnited. They also had a very mismatched showing in the respawn, specifically up against Heretics, as they fell to a 130-250 and a 165-250 in the hard point. Today, it was a 128-250 and a 141-250. So that's 2 times in a row now, 2 matches in a row, that Denial have barely surpassed 150 points in the hard point. The good news for this team is that they've been doing better in the search. That's what you have to kind of hold this off, and you have to hope if you're Denial, you can send this one to 5, because that's your best chance, I think, at winning the set. Our second matchup, again, going up against 2 teams in the bottom half of Division B, Elevate and Envy. And honestly, don't sleep on this match either. Yes, Elevate did not look very good against 100 Thieves, but Envy has looked atrocious now pretty much all week. Their set versus Splyce was a lot closer than it should have been, considering the fact that Nolson was new, but he was able to perform just fine. And then beyond that, it's been Envy just looking very mismatched across the board. So what Envy are we going to get tomorrow? If you're Elevate, you got to come out strong and take the first hard point. If you do that, you put Envy on the back foot, and then things start going chaotic. A lot of their losses in the sets that they've had have come off of a first map hard point not going in their favor, just barely. A 243-250 loss to 100 Thieves when they lost 0-3 in the set, and then today again a 245-250 in the 0-3 versus Enigma 6. Their other hard point losses have been a 181-250 and a 95-250. Both of those have resulted in 1-3 losses in the set as a whole. So if they come out and they play well in the respawn, look for this Envy team to roll. The last time they did it was against Heretics, where they came out with a 250-155 win on Arsenal, then a 250-213 to close the set off for a 3-1. That was on Frequency. A lot of stats being pushed around, but just know if Elevate comes out hot, this Envy team's in a lot of trouble. Going over to eUnited versus the Heretics, this is an interesting one. These teams are 1-1 in the head-to-head matchup. Last time that they played was at London, where eUnited was able to take a 3-0, so that might have some kind of bearing as far as what to expect for this one. But flat out, this eUnited team has gotten very, very good. Yes, they lost the Search and Destroy, and they've been very close to losing a handful of Search and Destroys in these last 2 weeks. A 6-5 win against Elevate, you don't like to see that, and a 6-4 versus 100 Thieves, also a 6-5 win versus Envy. So their Search and Destroy is definitely showing some vulnerabilities. However, I just don't see Heretics being able to push up against them. If you're Heretics, You need to be better at the respawn in specific. You have to take the control. You need to take one, if not both, the hard points if you want to have a shot versus this eUnited team. And then 100 Thieves going up against the red hot Splyce team, feeling a lot of confidence. And of course, like the desk has mentioned, is it just a honeymoon phase where this feels good because it's new, but is it actually a for sure thing? If this is the best time to test that. If it is a for sure thing, you're going to get a good action here against 100 Thieves. If it is just a honeymoon, you'll know pretty quickly how severely below a major team you are if 100 Thieves comes out hot like they did today versus Elevate. But that's the question. Will 100 Thieves come out hot versus Elevate, or pardon me, versus Splyce? They've come out a little bit slow and on the back foot versus teams like Heretics, like eUnited, like Enigma 6, and like Envy, and either barely been able to scrape together a wins, or in the case of eUnited, they lost 0-3. So there's a lot of things you need to keep in mind if you are a 100 Thieves fan. You need to come out hot here. You cannot let Splyce get momentum. They've been able to fuel themselves with energy all the way through, not having much issue throughout their sets. If they get in the back foot, what happens then? That's my biggest question as we'll go forward into that. So as we wrap up, let's go ahead and do our predictions and get into our bookie's worst nightmare. Again, giving you guys all of the betting tips, tricks, and tips. I already said tips. I said tips twice. It's fine. Just go with it. But I had a great day today. I ended up betting my parlay after all 4 picks and ended up making a lot of money because of it. If you are somebody who also bet on the Enigma 6 lines, you're very welcome. If you went beyond that, hopefully they paid off for you. I know most of my spreads were pretty wrong because the totals were a little bit more convincing than what they thought they would be, but at least my picks were correct. So hopefully if you went on with my predictions as far as match winners, you also had a good day. So if you did, congratulations. If not, open up those ears. I'm just kidding. Let's start things off. Enigma 6 versus Denial. First game up. Enigma 6 still the underdog here, at least on most sites, going for as much as plus 119 as I've seen it so far, and their plus 1.5 spread going at minus 303, where evenly and interestingly enough, Denial is going for an even line at plus 100, where they'll be at a plus 225 to find a 3-1. Jump on this Enigma 6 line as fast as you possibly can. I see Enigma 6 having no issue whatsoever with Denial based on how they've played. Yes, there have been a couple losses. Yes, the last 10 between both teams have shown some inconsistencies, but even in the last 10 matchups, Enigma 6 still holds the edge as far as how they've performed lately. And again, a lot of those losses in the loss category were very narrow losses. I've got Enigma 6 winning this one 3-1. Favorable bet line on the match winner, also an upset potential. So definitely jump on that Enigma 6 bet line as fast as humanly possible, because that is an easy one. No problems, no worries. Down to the second set of the day, all of it going up against Envy. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure what to think about this matchup because Envy, like I mentioned, if they come out slow, Elevate could absolutely pack on the hurt. And honestly, this team in Elevate has looked relatively good in the hardpoint. Yes, they didn't look so good versus 100 Thieves, but I think they learn a lot from playing a team like 100 Thieves. The things that they were getting away with versus other middle-of-the-road teams obviously didn't. They didn't make, they needed to make less mistakes than they did, have higher efficiency, blah, 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 blah. I don't see them having that much of an issue versus Envy. That's the biggest thing. They are the underdogs at plus 125, minus 175 for them to cover 2 maps. Envy, the favorite at 159 under, and then plus 125 for them to find a 3-1. Personally, I don't think that Huke is going to have as bad of a day, but I also don't think it's going to matter. I've got Elevate taking this one in 5. Definitely, if you want to, jump on that spread bet. It's not the greatest for spread lines, but I'm actually personally going to be jumping on the underdog potential here, as it will be, I think, Elevate taking this one at a 3-2 scoreline. Envy just can't clutch it out, and I'm not feeling strong about this team at the moment. And go figure, I'll probably say these things, and then they'll play incredible tomorrow. But it's just hard to predict the Envy situation. I still think that looking at this line for Elevate at plus 125 is worth throwing a handful of dollars at, because if they do win, you'll pay out pretty nicely. Going to the back half of the day, and I think this is going to be a little bit easier on us. We've got eUnited going up against Heretics, minus 400. The heavy favorite is eUnited, plus 280 for the underdog line of Heretics, plus 120 for them to cover 2 maps. Hold all your bets on this one. eUnited's going to take this one, no problem. I have them winning it a 3-1. It's just the Search and Destroy is too good for eUnited. I don't see them stumbling again like they did against Denial. Heretics has been okay, but really it kind of just comes down to if they play on their maps, they play well. And even that's not necessarily a guarantee, where eUnited's been flexing all over the place. Take a look at that hardpoint and control over the last 10. 7-3, 8-2. They haven't lost. Well, they're not going to lose here either. It's just the way it's going to go. Bottom hurt of the day, 100 Thieves and Splyce to wrap things up before Anaheim, our last game. 100 Thieves, the favorite at -333, -139 is the best I'm finding for the spread. I've got Splyce at +293, the best you'll find it, and then even spread for them to cover 2 maps. Like I have for eUnited, that's a parlay option right there, and you're going to parlay that with 100 Thieves because I don't see them losing to Splyce. Yes, Splyce is red hot. Yes, things are looking really, really good for Splyce with Nolson. No, they're not at the same level as 100 Thieves, especially in the respawn. Maybe they steal a search. I've got this one going 3-1. Again, parlay option knocked there for 100 Thieves. So hopefully if you tune in tomorrow and you bet some of those lines, you find some favor, and best of luck to all of you guys out there. I'll be betting the 2 underdogs individually and the 2 for parlay. That's what I'm betting tomorrow, just so you guys have that to note. Finishing up the week, we will do one more recap to close out day number 4, and then beyond that, we'll be doing an in-depth look at each of the pools, which underdog teams to be keeping an eye out for the open bracket, and then beyond that, more power rankings for our top 16 CWL teams in that order. Until next time, I've been Shift. Thanks for hanging out with the recap. Later, later. Oh, I almost forgot my little sign-off. I hope you keep holding it down. Later, later. Bye-bye.